Testing audio. Hey, good evening, everyone. Doppler 10 Meteorologist Ross Caruso here. Just wanted to give you guys another update on the storms that we've been watching through the course of the day today. The severe weather, of course, is what we've been seeing more recently. And again, that has been through parts of western Ohio primarily. But again, we are still watching the threat for not only severe thunderstorms, but also tornadoes as well. So we are looking at the potential for not only severe thunderstorm warnings, but tornado warnings. Again, something that we'll continue to keep a close eye on as we head into the rest of the evening. So we'll wait a couple more seconds here for some people to join on in, and we'll get started with our coverage on this Facebook Live video. And for those of you that are just joining in right now, again, we're going to be taking a look at the severe weather threat as we head into this evening. We're still continuing to see the potential for some storms as we head into tonight. The good news is we really haven't seen really much of anything as far as severe weather in central Ohio, but we are watching the imminent threat for potential for storms to develop later this evening, as again, that's something we're going to be keeping a close eye on. So again, we have been looking at the threat for severe weather through the course of the day today as well. We've been looking at what is an enhanced risk of severe weather. So you can see where we do have that severe thunderstorm watch, or tornado watch rather, we do have an enhanced risk for severe weather, including much of central Ohio. This area in particular is where we're looking at that threat, where again, we're primarily focusing on a threat of damaging wind gusts. That's going to be associated with these storms that we'll continue to see through this evening. We also have the risk for some large hail, although it's not the primary concern. It is possible. Not only that, we do have the risk for tornadoes as well. And you might say, well, 10%, that's not a whole lot. It actually is, considering that, normally we kind of hang out in the 2% range with a lot of the severe events that we have. But considering how we are looking at a more potent system, it is possible, and as is the case through parts of western Ohio and the easternmost part of Indiana earlier this afternoon, we saw that tornado warning, or confirmed tornado, for the first tornado that we've had for us here in quite some time here in Ohio. So the good news is we're no longer looking at any tornado warnings active across parts of the state, but you can see, though, we are seeing quite a lot of activity with some of these storms that are developing. So we'll take a close look on that and take a closer look into the storm system as it pushes in right around the Dayton area. And again, we're continuing to see a lot of lightning associated with this storm. And again, this is right over Dayton, where you can see that there is a cluster of lightning associated with this. We're seeing a lot of heavy rain. This is right over Dayton. And again, we are looking at a severe thunderstorm warning, not a tornado warning. So we're not watching any rotation with this storm in particular, but you can see a lot of lightning associated with this. It has been issued since 7 o'clock, so just a minute ago, and will be in effect until 7:30 this evening. And that again is for Greene, Miami, and Montgomery counties. And again, we'll take the lightning off here just so you can see, because this is kind of obstructing the view of the heavy rain, which again is pretty much covering much of the area that is included within this polygon, where again we are looking at some very heavy rain that is moving over the Dayton area. We're going to continue to see this heavy rain move through parts of southwestern Ohio as we head into this evening, but also the potential for some of these stronger storms as we head into the latter half of this evening into the early part of the night for us here in Franklin County as well, where there could be the potential, again, for some stronger storms. But again, for those of us here in central Ohio, not much of a concern for us as far as these storms. And again, this is mainly off to the west, but you can see we are starting to see these storms fire back up especially over parts of Indiana, right over Indianapolis. You can kind of see, and these storms aren't all moving the same direction. And this is something that, especially with the type of environment that we're looking at, there isn't really a rhyme or reason other than the fact that these storms just will try to go to an area that is, well, easiest for them. And in doing so, it's not like it's moving along a cold front where we typically see storms move from one direction to another. You can clearly see where we're seeing storms that are coming through that are moving from parts of western Ohio down to the south, but we also have storms that are pushing east as well into parts of western Ohio. So we're continuing to monitor not only storms that are in parts of western Ohio, but in Indiana as well. And again, this is all going to be driving east. So we're going to continue to keep a close eye on these storms because it's going to continue to move towards the east with these storms developing. But the good news is, well, we have been seeing what is considered to be a lot of cloud coverage built in from the storm system that had been in western Ohio dissipate. And in doing so, that has allowed for some more cloud coverage. But we're not out of the gate just yet as far as the potential for severe weather. We're continuing to keep a close eye on the potential for storms redeveloping, which again is a possibility. You can see that these storms have quickly fired back up across parts of Indianapolis. And again, you can see they're right along that boundary there where we are seeing those storms redevelop from earlier this evening where we really didn't see a whole lot of activity. So again, those storms along that boundary and that warm front continuing to fire back up even in parts of Indianapolis. But you can see in those parts, they're seeing a lot more sunshine than what we are at the moment. And again, with the cloud coverage that we've been seeing, that will come in handy, especially when we're going to be talking about the potential for storms developing in parts of central Ohio as we head into the early part of tonight, which again, still a possibility for us. But since we are still talking about these storms and some very strong storms moving over Dayton, let's just take for good measure a look at our velocity graphic that we have for you. And again, this really highlights just the overall wind field that we have in the upper parts of the storm. And there's nothing really that's showing a signature of anything. And again, no surprise considering how we do just have a severe thunderstorm warning. And again, and this is going to continue as we head into this evening, including right through Dayton and again through Montgomery, Miami, and Greene County until 7:30. So, and the main threat with this is that we are looking at 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts and half-dollar size hail. And again, this storm is moving southeast at 20 miles an hour, so they're not moving very fast. And with that, we will be looking at the risk for not only heavy rain, but you could be looking at some flooding and even some flash flooding in some spots, which again, we do have some of those watches as well, not just the tornado watches, but that for flooding with some of these slower moving storms. But again, we also had a tornado warning, or earlier we had a tornado warning from a confirmed tornado that we had. And again, this is the report that we had in Mercer County. And the description for this reads, emergency manager passed on report from local fire department of confirmed tornado northwest of Fort Recovery, Ohio at Park Road and State Line Road. A TDS, which is a tornado debris signature, was also observed on radar at the time, and there have been multiple reports of damage to structures in the Fort Recovery area, likely tornado. And TDS, again, that's something that we use on a product on our radar called the correlation coefficient, and that essentially, abbreviated otherwise as CC, we like to use that because it's able to pick up things that are not meteorological particles into the air, and it helps us realize that, oh, this is not, rain, or this isn't some other sort of meteorological phenomenon. This is something that is, something that is not having to do with, rain or hail or whatever other particle we have coming from these clouds, and that helps to determine, that we are looking at is what more people often call a debris ball. And we did see that stand out for a little bit in those parts, and then we did have another tornado warning that was issued just to the west, or I should say the southeast, but fortunately we didn't see anything other than just radar confirmed. So, but again, it's been a while since we've had a tornado confirmed in the state of Ohio. It's been awfully quiet to start the year, but again, here we are making up for it this evening. The good news is, though, with the cloud coverage that we have across much of central Ohio, it will come in our favor, especially as, again, the sun is going to continue to set. We are well past our peak daytime heating, so through the remainder of the evening, things are kind of peaked for us, or capped. But the matter of it is, we still have this disturbance that's going to be rolling through, allowing for some of these storms to develop. And again, we still have that tornado watch until 11 o'clock tonight. We did see some counties drop off of it. Again, Knox, Morrow County, and Marion County have dropped because much of this activity is a little bit closer right through the heart of central Ohio and towards the southwest. So we could even see that shift further to the south and honestly to the west as well if we happen to see a lack of redevelopment or development to begin with, since we've been pretty quiet since the early part of the day where we did have some of that heavier rain. And I do think that cloud coverage will help out a lot, and especially with what we've seen with the dissipating storm system that brought that original tornado warning, still looking at some of those storms generally through west-southwest Ohio. So we're going to continue to keep an eye out for that, but not only are we looking at the potential for storms to the south and west, we could still see a couple isolated storms redevelop further to the east and even to the south. But by the time we head into around the midnight hours, I think things will calm down drastically, not only with just coverage, but just the intensity of these storms. And we could have a few torrential downpours into the overnight, but for the most part, things should be winding down quite a bit as far as the overall severe potential. But then we go into Saturday, and it's going to be another humid, warm day for us. We could see some heavy downpours into the morning for us Saturday, some clearing into the afternoon, probably a lot more than what we saw through the course of the day today. But nonetheless, we will then see the potential for a couple other storms develop, having the boundary in this model in particular a little bit further to the north. So things look awfully quiet, which I wouldn't rule out an isolated storm or two, especially as we head again into the early evening hours. I know we have a big crew game tomorrow at 7:30, so hopefully things can steer clear for us here in Franklin County. But nonetheless, it'll be more isolated, and again, we have that marginal risk for severe weather. But especially with the air mass that we have, it's kind of hard to rule out a shower. It's kind of like how it was a couple weeks ago, but these carry a little bit more potency with them where we could see, a few heavier downpours, but again, then calming back down as we head into your Saturday night. But again, that's a look at what we have for you hour by hour. We'll hop back and take a look at what's currently going on our radar, and I'll hop on Facebook to see if we have any questions from some of you. I'd be happy to answer them. And again, hopefully you are enjoying your Friday evening. And again, we've just seen some light rain over the past hour or so here in Columbus, so nothing that's been a problem. And I have been told that my audio is a little glitchy, so I apologize for that. Hopefully we can get that resolved on the back end, but we will see if that can get fixed. But nonetheless, even if you are having problems hearing me a little bit, we'll just pull up the radar, and again, I'll try to illustrate as much as I can so that you can be aware of what we're looking at if you might not be able to hear me that well. And again, right over Dayton, some heavy rain just moved through, and anytime you see the oranges, even the yellows, that's some heavy rain. I mean, this is some torrential rain right over Dayton, heading towards Kettering. And again, I have the lighting turned off because when you put the lighting on, you can't really make out much of anything. So we're going to continue to see this heavy rain just continue to move through. And again, we have that severe thunderstorm warning that's going to remain in effect through parts of Montgomery County in Miami and Greene until 7:30. So we could perhaps see a few changes here and there. But for the most part, I do believe that we'll continue to see this storm and possibly maybe an additional severe thunderstorm warning, because it doesn't look like it's really showing much signs of slowing down. But as I mentioned, the storms that we have been watching through the course of the day, it had been mainly that of, off far to the west. And again, we haven't been seeing much clearing into the skies, which will certainly help us out. But with some of the models, as I showed earlier a little bit ago, we could very well see some of these storms redevelop and fire back up as we head into the early part of tonight. And you can see clearly off to our west, these storms that are in through Indiana, around Indianapolis, and this is right along, I-70, running through Indianapolis, and then heading into Ohio, pretty much right along the boundary there. You can see a cluster of these storms redeveloping in the area. It will be interesting to see these incoming storms as they're developing back near Greenville. Again, that's up around where we had a tornado warning earlier, to see how much things have kind of cleaned out for these storms to redevelop. It doesn't look like it'll be as promising, but certainly something we'll continue to keep a close eye on and monitor for you guys as we head into the evening hours for us. And again, this is all kind of rolling east-southeast, but as we've been talking about earlier, we have been looking at some storms that have been going more east, a little bit more southeast, so they kind of have a mind of their own, or try to do things the easiest way possible, and in doing so, they're going to try to eat up all the available energy And then once that happens, then it's going to be harder for some of these other storms. So you may end up seeing them take a little bit of a different direction than what we have been looking at earlier this evening with some of these other storms that have been kind of spawning in a similar range or area. So again, for the most part, what we've been keeping an eye on is not only any of the other reports that we have for as far as severe thunderstorm warnings, but nothing of which that's been hinting at any potential for any rotation. And again, for those of you that are just tuning in right now, we don't have any active tornado warnings. Fortunately, things have been kind of quiet. But again, we still have that tornado watch. It's going to be in effect until 11 p.m. I wouldn't be surprised if we were to see some counties kind of clear out of there. But the fact that we have these storms firing up this quickly back into the Ohio borderline, again, we're going to continue to keep a close eye on this, and we'll make sure to keep you updated online, on air as well. If there were to be a tornado warning, we would ensure that we would bring you that information as soon as possible onto programming. But we'll continue to keep you updated as these storms get closer and closer. So until then, keep it here with us at 10 TV. Again, we'll be updating you online, on air, and on our socials. And until then, again, we'll be on again at 11 o'clock, but sooner if, we were to happen to see a couple storms redevelop and see any tornado warnings in our area. But for the time being, very heavy rain. Nonetheless, you want to stay safe, especially with all the lightning that we're seeing out there as well. A lot of noisy storms, some stronger storms that are moving through, and again, something that many of you might not be thinking about because tornado kind of gets all the spotlight. Some strong winds from straight line winds. You could be looking at wind damage from a storm that can provide 60 to 70 mile-an-hour wind gusts, even in excess of that. So be careful out there and enjoy your weekend. Hopefully you can stay rain-free, and if you've been looking for rain, hopefully you're finding some. But at the same time, stay safe, take care, and we'll keep you posted here at 10 TV.